of the project is to advance the notion of reducing people's exposure to pesticides. And Anamika, being a pesticide chemist, toxicologist, scientist, the purpose was to take some of her expertise and apply it to Central America, where we knew that pesticide exposure in the population was very significant.
The project is 6 years, and there were different layers. So we had the political development, the community development, and the technical development. And each country had those three components.
So that's the easy part, coming up with the broad narrative. But then, what does that mean on the ground? She and Laura had to figure out who are the partners, how are we going to execute this, how are we going to get to the communities.
So we had a community leader, a policy leader, and a technical leader. And these leaders were from different countries.
The tactic then, the strategy became to work at the community level with local NGOs and local universities.
But then each country had team members that were part of those teams. So in the community team, there were the representative of 4 different countries, but it was led by a particular country. The same with the technical development. There were 4 different countries representatives, but one was the lead. And the same with the policy development.
How do you say suelo is flying, soil is flying?
Así es, el suelo está volando.
El suelo a volando.
The language barrier was huge because I don't speak Spanish. I can understand some Spanish and I can read Spanish reasonably well and do some rudimentary conversational Spanish, but that was a major challenge, so we always worked with interpreters, especially at the beginning.
Is he sold out every year? Like, does he sell all of the organic fertilizers?
Y cada año hay sobra el abono o siempre hay cantidades adecuadas.
Sí, sí. A veces no sobra. Necesitaría más producción, más pilas para que las lombrices irlas pasando a que ellas vayan procesando.
And then learning the system, the bureaucracy of the systems. We have our own set of administrative rules and regulations here, and so does each of those universities. And those are hurdles that you have to overcome. You have to be patient. But the people were so wonderful and so appreciative of the help of the Canadians coming to provide them some cash to do some work that they know needed to be done.
Martin and Anamika are all physical scientists, like looking at soil, looking at agriculture, and I bring in the social science component.
If you do want to make a change in other countries, it's really the countries themselves that should make that change. Because I'm not living in Nicaragua, I'm not living in Costa Rica and Honduras, so I can facilitate making a change, but I cannot make the change because I will never have that very deep understanding of the country itself and what it needs, right? I can only listen to the people and trying to make things happen.
In this project, the farmers have to learn to farm differently and use the land differently, that's more safe, that uses pesticides in a more rational way, where they're using protective gear. So that's why they needed someone to come in and look at not just the physical side of pesticide use and contaminants, but to look at, okay, how can we teach and learn so that people use the land differently and farm differently.
I think that was something that Anamika built into the project, where we went with their ideas. So because the structure of the program was organized such that we would empower their ideas. And if they were doing the work that they said they were going to do, then there was never a question. So from our perspective, we didn't ask them, to prove that they had, we saw that the work was being done. So that put them in the driver's seat, and I think that looked after a lot of it. So the way the structure of the program was built for success that way.
One component was to have students living with farmers, and then the students would learn from the farmers and make observations to why do farmers do certain things in a certain way. At the same time, farmers would teach the students about technical aspects of farming. So it worked out very well.
That was really incredible because here we have actually a lot of Honduran young people who are urban. Many of them are urban. They go live in the country under quite primitive conditions, and they thrived, and they really learned about their own country. And then, of course, they came back to the Central University with a million new ideas. This is how young people are, and how people are when they're exposed to something new. So they're coming back with all these million of ideas. So, okay, got to sort through them, what works. And then the Hondurans were like, well, are we allowed to make some changes? You know, what are the Canadians going to think? The Canadians going to cut us off, you know? And so we would embrace that. We would say, well, okay, we can only do 3 things. Which of those 3 things should we do?
Los productores agradecen que el proyecto haya llegado a las comunidades porque se han beneficiado y han aprendido a cambiar esa cultura que tenían antes sobre el uso y el manejo de los plaguicidas y de los químicos. También, en lo personal, lo agradezco porque ha sido una retroalimentación a mi conocimiento y como persona. Y espero que este tipo de proyectos sigan llegando a las comunidades porque hay muchas personas que viven todavía en la ignorancia a los beneficios que esto trae para nosotros.
I think that said to me that things are very successful, and I see that as an example of the grassroots because it's the students that then communicate with the professors about their experiences. The professors then go back to the farmers to say, this is what we heard from the students, and then the farmers and the professors talk about it.
In a Canadian context, that may be seen as messy, right? That, you know, you got these students going out, and why are these students now coming and telling us professors how to run a research program? But it was exactly the right model, and I think we've learned from that. You know, there were a group of women that were producing cut flowers, and they were, I think they called them kangaroo mothers because they had their babies on their backs, you know, and they're working, and they were just lacing these plants with pesticides to keep them blemish-free for the markets, and the women, the female students would go in there, and they would learn things from these women which even the university professors in Honduras didn't know. They were having miscarriages. They were having, their fingers were numb. They were basically being poisoned with these pesticides. And so that was new information that was coming into the program. And I mean, some of it was just documented, and it was very humbling.
Really how unique our project is, but I do think that we had a very successful project. I really think so, because there was a lot of change.
Siempre todos los siembros, los cultivos los probamos con orgánico y con lo químico, pero nosotros miramos que el que dio mejor resultado y mejor éxito y lo demostrábamos por las comunidades que venían a las parcelas, que como lo que era orgánico estaba precioso.
The science that we do, we go into an agro-ecosystem and we're right away deconstructing it. Like we look at it, we look at the type of crops they grow, the animal integration, where the market is, what the labor pool is, what the weather, climate, soil is, and we're right away, like in our minds, we're putting it all in boxes, right, and seeing the connections, trying to look for weaknesses, look for strengths. And we're not going to say that, oh look, I found a weakness, but we're going to, then bring the question saying, you know, what is your insect population like here? Because, you know, there doesn't seem to be any natural flora around here. Where would the beneficial insects live? And lots of times the farmers know that they have a problem. So they appreciate the fact that you've picked up on this, and they say, so, you know, what can I do?
Again, I think if it's something that people want, it becomes less of a difficulty making it happen, right? Because it's the people who drive the particular activity. So if you think about the energy spent in terms of making things happen, a lot of energy was spent to listening to the farmers.
Pero a través del proyecto, ¿verdad?, conocimos nosotros la parte de teórica de manejo. Entonces, agua, difícil, subir y mantener.
We do know that you need to protect yourself. Everyone here in Canada is wearing protective gear when they're applying pesticides, right? We recognize that it's important to have that precaution. And that's not happening in places like Central America and other places in the world.
Es algo nuevo que nosotros no lo sabíamos. En cambio ahora, al tener esto, es bien, satisfactoriamente pues uno se siente orgulloso porque está mejorando uno su salud y también uno está contaminando el medio ambiente.
Here you have a group of people that started out doing sort of the biophysical stuff, and then they gained a whole awareness of this pesticide thing, and it came to the political level in the most positive sense, you know, the community decision-making level, and then they decided that, yes, they could continue with this research, but it's also really important that they write some policy in their community to not allow this one. I think it was a peanut company that was using very toxic chemicals and it was showing up in the water. So that type of evolution, you know, then you realize you're working with real world issues and really with people's lives. The mayor of the community, she heard that the university, the local Nicaraguan university, was testing pesticides in the community, and she asked to have her breast milk tested. And they discovered organophosphate pesticide in her breast milk, and that is what motivated her to action and to rally the community around this cause. I mean, that is incredibly powerful, and without this project, you know, she would have never had a chance to actually find out how this stuff affected her body. So I mean, I'm still processing this stuff, wouldn't you? I mean, this is really powerful stuff.
The crops here are grown either organically or conventionally, and here we have the organic paddock of beans, tomatoes. The tomatoes here look very good. They look better than the conventional ones. Here we have the organic maize, and this is a crop that it took a number of years for the organic system to equal the conventional system. That's not unusual in maize. So those are the organic plots. Here are the conventional plots. Here's the conventional beans. Not quite as healthy as the organic beans. Here we have the organic tomatoes, and the difference here is really obvious. These aren't organic tomatoes. These are chemically treated tomatoes, conventional tomatoes, and they're smaller. And the organic system here consists of putting soil composted manure into the system and not using pesticides. So, and here is the conventional corn, which looks similar to the organic. And so there you have it. We're in Tizma, Nicaragua, October 21st, 2011.
We get our food from there, part of our food supply, and we have the responsibility to make sure that that food is produced in a safe manner and that we don't destroy people's lives. And I think that's very, very important.
First world models of science and development don't really solve all the problems. We need to continually embrace new ideas coming from, I'll use the word the bottom, coming from, you know, maybe the students or the community, and then organize our institutions accordingly. Because if the institutions aren't organized to match the circumstances that are going on, they're not useful. And that's one thing that this project and development work does so well. And when we look at Honduran, Nicaraguan universities, we look at a structure that's so different, way more experiential. But I dare say that in some ways they are more effective than we are, because they are embracing realities and putting resources to those things in a way that we're not.
Actualmente, desde que las capacitaciones que nos dio la universidad a través del apoyo de la Universidad de Manitoba de Canadá, pues ya ahora nosotros estamos utilizando el equipo protector, lo que es la protección personal, porque anteriormente no lo utilizábamos.
What I learned in this project is that when you're working with social circumstances, those don't change so quickly. And you know, I had to check not so much my privilege, but my impatience at the door, because I say, look, you know, these farmers are showing these improved systems, like let's spread them around the country. Well, it doesn't work that fast. You know, people are tied to their traditions, and so. But yes, absolutely. To see, it shows how intelligent people are and how much they want to improve their circumstances. And they need somebody to help them. They need to feel empowered and feel that they can do it.
Vimos que era un proyecto interesante y gracias a la voluntad del cura y de los alumnos pudimos realmente salir de la ignorancia donde estábamos, porque lo decíamos que estábamos aplicando mucho pesticidas, nos estábamos intoxicando nosotros mismos y contaminando el medio ambiente y contaminando al mismo tiempo la producción. Entonces el proyecto ha sido de mucha utilidad.
We're really talking about a power struggle. I mean, part of this project was really tied into the class struggle that's gone on through history. You've got the people who are selling and manufacturing the pesticides are the Syngentas, the BASFs, the Bayers, the Monsantos, the Dows, the DuPonts, you know, and I've been struggling with that power imbalance all through my life, not even my career, and I see how they wield power in our country. They now own over half the seeds of the major crops of the world, and you come to Central America where the economies are fragile and there's so many poor people, and you work on pesticides in these countries, you're working with the people that are being manipulated, have no power, are farming the worst land because the best land is being used for export crops like pineapples and bananas and coffee. And part of the pesticide issue in the first place is because of where they are given land to farm. It's the hillside, it's the worst land. And then when you see these people coming together to put an ordinance in place to empower their community to restrict the use of pesticides and actually having an impact, a positive impact, that to me represents a real step forward in the class struggle. And I think that's very healthy for their society, because it's not healthy for them to continue to have a few very rich people tied to pesticides and many, many poor people who are victims of pesticides.
Nosotros le poníamos amor a los que ellos los traían, porque nosotros decían, si los traen este maíz, este frijol, este tomate, esto cuesta, no podemos decir nosotros esto lo voy a sembrar y no lo voy a acudir. Entonces nosotros íbamos a plantar la matita en el nombre de Dios, que esto se los va a levantar y se los va a producir.
It's humbling to see how communities with so little are so dignified.
Sí, yo me siento bien, ¿verdad? Porque ya estamos aprendiendo y ya no va a ser ni para mí, sino que ya para el futuro, ¿verdad? Porque ya así como yo, pues ya estamos, ya estamos terminando nuestra vida casi. Pero los que vienen, ojalá que ellos sí lo pongan bien en práctica.
I think we all have a social responsibility to try to make a change, try to make things better, no matter where we come from.